everybody, welcome to our online fundraiser. It's great to have you here. I want to start off with a land acknowledgement because we need to acknowledge that the land that the Santa Fe Conservation Trust protects is part of a much larger sovereign landscape of the Tano and Tewa people, the unceded territory of those indigenous people. Over 4 centuries, there's been a convergence of cultures here that had to do with the possession of land and its resources, and unfortunately the dispossession of people and the displacement of people. We acknowledge this in recognition of the stewardship of the Native American cultures over the centuries, and their continued stewardship of the land going into the future, and to acknowledge the colonialism that exists and continues to exist. So while we're not responsible for the past, we are responsible for the future. So today's online gathering is to talk a little bit about what kind of a future do we want to leave for our kids and our grandkids. At the Santa Fe Conservation Trust, I asked our board recently, why are you involved? Why do you care? And almost to a person, they said that they had an experience in nature that they wanted to be sure that their kids and grandkids could experience. We are blessed to live in such a beautiful part of the world with sweeping vistas and beautiful mountains. What we've found is that our conservation work is as important as it's ever been to strengthen the biodiversity that we all depend on to survive. We believe that everybody should have equitable access to nature, and our community programs give people the opportunity to get outside, to feel the solace that nature can bring to them, especially during these tough times. The Santa Fe Conservation Trust is a land trust started in 1993 to protect Atalaya Peak from development behind St. John's College. Our organization is a nonprofit. In addition to protecting over 45,000 acres in and around Santa Fe, we also have a strong trails legacy. We've had a hand in the development of 75 miles of trails, and we maintain them with the help of hundreds of volunteers annually to make sure that our community has access to safe and enjoyable outdoor recreation. Dale Ball was the first executive director. He's famous for creating the Dale Ball Trail System, which is a 35-mile trail system that I'd say almost everybody has used and enjoyed. I think because of his initial input into our formation, the community realized we don't want to see houses on the ridgetops of our foothills, which can be seen from everywhere in town. And that spurred our organization into action to figure out an alternative. And eventually, Santa Fe County passed an ordinance prohibiting ridgetop development. Over time, we expanded that focus to protect the foothills all the way from Tesuque down to the Pecos area. The land, the food, the air, the water all capture why we love living here and why it's important for us to protect them. Our Vamanos program takes people on walks in urban settings. We go out after work for about an hour and we walk around the city of Santa Fe's urban trails. My favorite walk is the Vamanos scavenger hunt, which we just did recently. There's a lot of kids that come together to go look for things out in nature. We look for lichen on rocks, lizards, snakes, different kinds of trees. I was telling the kids that it's about trying to develop a friendship with nature. You don't really feel comfortable with someone unless you have a friendship with them and you know them pretty darn well. And so my hope for them was to go on a scavenger hunt, start learning things about nature, and to feel more comfortable with her so that they could be friends with her. So I really like this walk because it kind of forces people to slow down and really look at things in nature. And of course, the ice cream truck at the end doesn't hurt either. Kids on our Passport to Trails program, where we take kids from mainly Spanish-speaking Southside schools out on our dirt trails. A lot of them have never even been in the mountains. They've never had the opportunity to put their nose up to a ponderosa pine tree to smell its caramel scent. They've never had the opportunity to climb up to a high spot to look at how big the world is. So I was with a group of fourth graders one time, and we came back down from the hike, the Passport to Trails hike, and this kid exclaimed to me in amazement, he said, "I haven't even looked at my iPhone all day. I've just been listening to the birds." And that is precisely what we're trying to do. We're trying to create memories for kids in nature that will sustain them growing up, to the point where as adults, they're going to work to protect nature going forward.
The Galisteo Basin is a focus area, probably our prime focus area, and this conservation homestead is our biggest project yet. Not necessarily in terms of the size of the land, but in terms of the scope of the work.
This 300-acre parcel was donated to the Santa Fe Conservation Trust in 2020.
Taking on this project, we decided that it would be a great format to showcase conservation techniques.
It is an area in a network of pathways in the center of the basin where animals, water, people, seeds all have a possibility to disperse and roam around in this landscape.
We have a pretty big area where man's imprint has left it looking kind of shattered a little bit. So we're trying to bring that back through a variety of projects.
I think we are solving a problem of current desertification, largely caused by us people having managed this land in a certain way.
We'll have many, many more volunteer days where we've put in a number of different structures to control the erosion. We've recontoured the land. We planted a bunch of seed, and we're trying to spread out the water. Whatever water falls on this property, we're going to make use of and bring it back to where it was 100, maybe 1,000 years ago. That's a big, tall order. That'll take a long time, but we think that once people see what you can do with a piece of land like this, they'll want to do it more and more.
We have more than 13,000 acres under conservation easement in the Galisteo Basin area, where there are just an amazing array of archaeological sites that need to be protected.
What's special about this trust is its commitment to connecting people with the land. Not just going through the professional exercises of establishing easements on land, but working hard to connect us in a spiritual way with the land that around here is so important to who we are.
As a result of all this open area, we also don't have a lot of light pollution. So this area is also a gem for night sky appreciation.
The stars that our ancient ancestors saw should still be visible to us. And it's a critical part of our overall environment and our sense of place.
It is important for people to start to discover what the different stories are, the historical stories and the ecological stories of this place, especially in this time of change, so that with understanding, they gradually start to love the place in a different way than only to appreciate it for the visual quality, and that they, by loving it, are maybe willing to embrace some form of conservation stewardship, because that is really what we need. It's not only the Santa Fe Conservation Trust and people like us who can do that. We need to do it all together.
We need a place to play, and I encourage people to come out and check out the whole Galisteo Basin.
So the big question is, what kind of a future are we going to leave for our kids in the natural world? The pandemic, the drought, the wildfires we've been experiencing, the heat, the wind, the floods now are making us look at our work in a really different way. We're realizing that we don't just need nature, that nature actually needs us. We need to move more quickly to protect more land if we're going to have an impact on the loss of biodiversity that's happening. We need to create larger, more connected conservation areas to give animals the room to roam for their own survival. This means that we need to work with landowners who may not be able to afford the cost of doing a conservation easement so that we can connect more properties together. And just recently, in the last couple of years, we've been able to create a loan fund, the first of its kind in New Mexico for conservation. And this loan fund will cover the upfront costs of putting a conservation easement on property. And then the landowner can pay us back from the sale of their state tax credit. It's amazing to think that New Mexico itself doesn't have any real financial support for landowners to put their land into conservation until now, until we've created this loan fund. And thanks to the generosity of the Thaw Charitable Trust, we've been able to establish an endowment, $1 million endowment. The earnings from the endowment are going to be used to completely cover the transaction costs for one low-income landowner per year. This is going to speed our work forward. It's going to open the door of conservation to more people and diversify the landowners that we work with. So this is a huge development. Both the loan fund and the endowment are going to really help us make a difference to everybody's quality of life.
One of our goals is to see if we can get more and more landowners to consider putting their land under conservation easements.
Our organization has put together a strategic conservation plan for the next 10 years that's going to lead us towards trying to connect the patchwork of easements that we have throughout the region.
And one of the things that I love about the work that the Santa Fe Conservation Trust does is the fact that it does fit like puzzle pieces within this broader scheme of conserved lands all over North America, from Mexico all the way up to Canada.
This is also part of a larger initiative called the Western Wildway, where we do our part, but there's about 60 different organizations, and we're working to create a wildway corridor along the spine of the continent.
You have to have pieces of land that all fit together so that you can have migrations. As the climate gets warmer, animals can move to a place that is better for them.
Now, with the addition of the conservation homestead, we've got so much land under easements. We've not only created habitat for wildlife, but we're protecting the watershed.
And understanding the role that conservation plays in protecting both water quality and water quantity is really important, because studies have shown over and over, if we can protect the headwaters of a watershed, that's really one of the most important places to protect the water quantity.
The initiative that the Biden administration jumped on board with is the 30 by 30 initiative, which calls for 30% of our country's wildlands to be put under conservation by the year 2030. The clock is ticking, and we have a long way to come.
Most of the scientific organizations say taking that step is a good way to go. You can still get to 50% by 2050.
Takes all of us together to really create this connected network of conserved lands that protects our planet.
We need everybody working together to make sure the land that's being preserved is going to fit into the category of making a difference on climate change and making a difference on the extinction crisis.
We're trying to improve everybody's quality of life 1 acre at a time through our work. Future generations really are depending on us to protect what we all care about here. But it's not really a guaranteed thing, so we're trying to ignite a passion for everybody in our community for the beauty of the natural world that we all enjoy, because we want future generations to have that same blessing. Now that you know a little bit more about our work, I'm hoping that you'll make a donation, push the button, and give whatever you possibly can. Climate change is happening. The loss of biodiversity is happening, and we all have to wonder what kind of future our kids are going to inherit. Will they be able to experience the bounty of nature that we've all had the pleasure of experiencing, or are they going to have a world that is really struggling?
These frames, and in the daylight I don't pick up my phone, 'cause in the daylight anywhere feels like home, and in the daylight we can hitchhike to Maine. I hope that someday I'll see without these frames, and in the daylight I don't pick up my phone, 'cause in the daylight anywhere feels like home, and in the daylight we can hitchhike to Maine. I hope that someday I'll see without these frames, and in the daylight I don't pick up my phone, 'cause in the daylight anywhere feels like home, and in the daylight we can hitchhike to Maine. I hope that someday I'll see without these frames, and in the daylight I don't pick up my phone, 'cause in the daylight anywhere feels like home.
Dad, what's a tree?
Well, a long time ago, when Daddy was a little boy, there were trees. Trees were these big, giant creatures that grew out of the ground. They had strong brown bases and reached up into the sky and were covered in vibrant green leaves that changed all sorts of colors once a year.
No way, in people's houses?
No, trees grew outside.
Where?
Well, everywhere. And kids would sit under them and play and relax.
Pierce, you know, when I was 10 or 11, me and my best friends, we would run straight from the school bus and we would run to our favorite tree. And it was our favorite tree because we could turn it into whatever we wanted. We could turn it into a spaceship. We're gonna need some help down here, Pierce. Oh, I think it's a meteor. I think a meteor's coming, Pierce. Or we could turn into a castle. And we'd have to slay the dragon. And once we'd slain all the dragons, we'd all sit under the tree and we'd take a nice big nap.
Trees also gave people air to breathe, and they grew fruit for people to eat. And you know what else?
What?
Trees were a home for animals. Trees were a home for beautiful birds.
Wow.
Like that one. Oh my gosh, like all of them. Do you see them?
Yeah.
And in some places, monkeys lived in trees.
Dad, what's a monkey?
Look! Oh, be careful.
Are there still monkeys?
Not anymore.
Are there still birds?
Only a few.
What happened to the birds and the monkeys?
Well, the water got polluted, and the rivers and the lakes dried up.
So there used to be more water?
Oh, way more water. Did you know that there used to be water on the ground?
What? No way.
Yeah. Right here in New Mexico, there were rivers.
What's a river?
A river is like a ribbon of water that flows downhill.
Pierce, when I was younger, my grandma would take me to the river, and we would sit, and she would splash her face with water and rub her body with sand. And she would teach me the healing properties of the water and the sand. And it was the first time the earth felt alive.
Wow.
There were rivers and streams and creeks and brooks, long paths of water that cut through the earth and wove through the trees and the forests. And right here in Santa Fe, people would go outside to the paths and walk along the river. The river was always a very special place to me because that's where my dad would take me as a kid. We would take long walks, and one of my favorite memories is when it would rain and we'd feel the cool raindrops on our skin.
I wish I could feel the rain.
You want to know what it feels like?
Yeah.
We'll show you. Okay, stand right here and close your eyes and put your arms out. Nice. Okay, yeah, everybody over there, just rub your hands together like that. Perfect. Perfect. And in this middle section, we want you to start snapping. Nice. We're trying to create an ambiance so Pierce can feel the water on his skin. And then you guys over there, you guys can start just patting. Yeah, perfect. Perfect. Nice. Nice. Yeah, you guys keep rubbing. You guys snapping. Nice. You feel it?
Yeah.
Feel like the raindrops are slowly touching on your skin? Perfect.
Yeah.
Nice. You guys are creating the perfect ambiance for the rain. Thank you. Thank you. You want to know about fish?
Yeah.
Fish are scaly-skinned animals that swim underwater, and they use their gills to breathe.
Whoa.
Yeah, and there's so many different types of fish. There's sea bass, there's salmon, there's swordfish, there's clownfish, there's tilapia, there's salmon, there's bluefish and redfish, and there's little baby sharks. And they would move together at the same speed.
Whoa.
In the same direction at the same time. But we still needed more, and humans became obsessed with more. We wanted more money, more space, more buildings, bigger buildings, taller buildings, buildings so high that they reached the sky and almost touched the stars.
The what?
The stars. Look. Well, I guess before the stars all got covered up and before the rivers dried up and before there weren't any bears anymore, there was a now.
A now?
A right now.
What happened in the right now?
In the right now, my name is Patrick, and I'm 30, and I don't have a son, but I want one, and grandkids one day. In the right now, we realize where we are and what's at stake. We open our eyes to what it means to coexist with the world around us. In the right now, we are running out of time, but it's not too late.
Stand up for my future, everyone's future.
Yeah!
We all need nature for our own sanity and happiness. So this is the opportunity to really support nature going forward and to ensure that our kids will have the same bounty that we've enjoyed. Just remember this. From protecting open space to scenic views to providing our community with recreational opportunities through our trails, from getting everybody outside to improve their health, from connecting larger spaces into connected conservation corridors, the Santa Fe Conservation Trust really does improve your quality of life. When our work is successful, everybody benefits. And so that's why I'm asking you to make a donation tonight. Let's make a donation to make it even better to live here in the Santa Fe region. Let's get our kids a future that they deserve. And let's continue to protect the open space and scenic views of this iconic landscape that we all love. Thank you so much for your support.